Good evening everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 26th of March. Today we will be covering the most important news for today, and along with them we will be solving the PYQ from the prelims perspective. As prelims is approaching, solving PYQs are very important. My name is Anuj and I will be taking today's session. In today's session, we will be covering 6 main news and 7 quick update, and along with that we will be covering one place in news, that is Cauvery River. In the main news, we will be covering about the flexible inflation targeting, as the union government has notified the inflation target for the year 2026 to 2031 under the flexible inflation targeting framework. Then in the second main news, we will be covering about the Transgender Person Protection of Right Amendment Bill 2026 passed in the Parliament. Then we will be covering about the modified UDAN scheme, as the Union Cabinet have approved the regional connectivity scheme, that is modified UDAN. Then we will be covering about the nationally determined contribution, as Union Cabinet approves the India's nationally determined contribution for the period 2031 to 2035. Then in the fifth main news, we will be covering about Central Armed Police Forces, as CAPF General Administration Bill 2026 have been introduced in the Rajya Sabha. Then in the sixth main news, we will be covering about the Foreign Contribution Regulation Amendment Bill 2026, which have been introduced in the Lok Sabha. Then we will be briefly covering 7 quick update, and in between the PC news. So this is the brief about today's session. Let us begin the session with the first main news. So the first main news is very important from the prelims perspective. We will be discussing the PYQs related to this news. Let us discuss the context of this news. Here, the Union government have notified the inflation target for the year 2026 to 2031 under flexible inflation targeting framework. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about monetary policies. In this news, we will be understanding about this inflation targeting as well as monetary policy committee. Let us start the discussion for this news. First of all, the background for this framework, that is flexible inflation targeting. What is the background of it? So in the year 2016, the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 was amended to provide a statutory basis for the implementation of this framework, and why this was required and what it is. So basically, you might have heard about the debate of inflation versus growth, that is economic growth. So there have to be trade-off between inflation or growth. If inflation is high, that means the growth will be high, but it will impact the economy in the long term, as it will reduce the purchasing power of the people. So there has to be a range where inflation is in a specific zone that will support the growth to an optimal level. So in the year 2013, there was a committee under Dr. Urjit Patel. So he recommended for an inflation targeting, because the inflation in the year from 2008 to 2012 was very high. So in the year 2013, there was a committee which was headed by Dr. Urjit Patel. So he recommended, or this committee recommended, about this flexible inflation targeting. Let us understand what is this flexible inflation targeting. So basically, what is inflation first? It is the rise of the prices from a specific time. That means in a specific time, if there is a constant rise in the prices, that is inflation. It does not mean that if a single price or the single price product is increasing, that does not mean inflation. It is the rise of many products. Okay, in India we measure it by CPI. that is used for the targeting. That in that also the headline inflation. There are two types of inflation: headline inflation and core inflation. In core inflation, we does not keep the volatile products such as food and fuel. But in headline inflation, we keep the volatile products as well. So first of all, let us understand what is this inflation targeting. So it is very difficult to target a particular number for the inflation. Okay, so what government and RBI have decided, that we will be targeting a particular range, that is from 2 to 6%. That is inflation targeting. And inflation targeting are of two types. That is strict inflation targeting and another one is flexible inflation targeting. So in strict inflation targeting, the only motive will be keeping the inflation in the particular range. But in the flexible inflation targeting, there will be also concern about the other parameters such as growth. That is the flexible inflation targeting, and in India, we follow the flexible inflation targeting. And the range is 4 plus or minus 2, that is from 2 to 6%. So that is the optimum level of inflation that we target, that will not reduce the growth as well as that will not hamper the economy in the long term. That is the basic meaning of inflation or the flexible inflation targeting framework in India. Now let us move forward and understand about the FIT framework. So as per the section 45ZA of the RBI Act of 1934, the central government shall, in consultation with the bank, here the bank is RBI, will determine the inflation target in the term of the CPI once every 5 years. This is, what is CPI? Consumer Price Index. So it is a fixed bucket of products which we use. It includes goods as well as services. And for targeting, we use the headline inflation, not the core inflation. Then target, the central government notified the target inflation target of 4% with upper tolerance band of 6% and the lower tolerance band of 2%. And it was targeted for the year from 2016 to 2021. And it was also retained for the year 2021 to 2026. And now it has been retained for 2026 to 2031 as well. Okay. And RBI Act provide for a monetary policy committee. We will be discussing about this committee in the next slide, and there is a PYQ which was directly asked upon this committee. And this committee determined the policy rate required to achieve the inflation targeting. Basically, in inflation, there can be shortage of products, or there can be high money, or the money in the market is high. So by using various monetary policies, RBI can manage the money in the market to target the inflation from the range from 2% to the 6%. Moving to the next page, we will be discussing about this monetary policy committee. So it is a 6-member body. Please listen it carefully. There was a PYQ related to this information. So it is a 6-member body, and the chairman, ex officio chairman, is RBI governor. And it also includes the RBI deputy governor, who is in charge of monetary policies. Then one RBI officer is nominated by the central board of the RBI. And 3 members are external members appointed by the central government who have expertise in economics, banking, finance, or monetary policies. So 3 members are from the RBI and 3 members are nominated by the government. Then when it is considered, what is considered as the policy failure? When inflation is outside the tolerance band for 3 consecutive quarters is considered as a failure of the monetary policy framework. So this was all about this news. Now let us discuss PYQ related to this news. So first PYQ is from the year 2023. So statement 1, in the post-pandemic recent past, many central bank worldwide had carried out interest rates hike. So if you want to solve this question, you have to understand what have happened in the pandemic. So in the pandemic, there was less growth. So for increasing the growth, the bank would have pumped the money. And for pumping the money, they might have reduced the interest rate. Okay. But after that, they want to bring back the money or they want to reduce the inflation. What they have done, that the many central bank worldwide have carried out interest rate hike. When there will be high interest rate, then there will be less money available in the market. So this statement is correct. Then statement 2. Central bank generally assume that they have the ability to counteract the rising consumer prices via the monetary policy means. That we have studied in the news, when there is high money in the market, through various monetary policy means, RBI or the central bank can contract or can reduce the money in the market or vice versa as well. So this explanation is correct for the statement 1. So the answer would be that both statement 1 and statement 2 are correct, and statement 2 is the correct explanation for statement 1. Now let us discuss one more PYQ from the year 2017. We have studied that MPC was formed in the year 2016 and the question was there in the year 2017. That is the importance of the current affairs for the prelims examination. First, it decides the RBI benchmarks interest rate that we have studied, that it's what is function. Then statement 1 is correct. That means the option C and option D cannot be the answer. Then it is a 12-member body. We have discussed that it is a 6-member body. So it is an correct statement, incorrect statement. It functions under the chairmanship of Union Finance Minister. We have studied that the ex officio chairman is the RBI governor. So this is also an incorrect statement. So the answer would be only A. That is 1 only. So with this, we have completed the first main news. Now let us move to the next main news, and there is a lot of controversy regarding this news. Let us understand this news in detail. What is the context? The context is that the Transgender Person Protection of Right Amendment Bill 2026 have been passed by both the houses. Okay, this is the context. We will be discussing what are the major provision and why there is the controversy. It is related to paper 2 where syllabus talks about important aspect for governance. So it is mostly related to mains examination. Okay, and what is the development? Development is that it introduces significant changes to the Transgender Person Protection of Right Act of 2019, which is aimed at providing better legal protection to the community. Okay, so you should be knowing about the transgender person and what are their concern if they have been they asked in the mains examination. So by the census of 2011, there are around 4.8 lakhs transgender in India. And according to UNDP, 92% of transgender are out of the economic activity. That means they are not able to participate in the economic frameworks. And there are some states which have provided reservation, horizontal reservation to the transgender community, and one of which state is Karnataka. So these types of facts should be remembered if you want to introduce the answer or you want to write the introduction, a very specific introduction in your mains exam. Now let us discuss about this news. So what are the key features of the bill? First of all, it revised the definition related to transgenders. It defined transgender person as those with socio-cultural identities that can be Kinnar or Hijra and who have biological variation, that is intersex. Okay, so here only these person will be included in the transgender community. Then it removed the right to self-determination. It was provided in the Act of 2019. But now with this bill, it has been removed and it omit the section 4(2) of the 2019 Act, removing the legal recognition for the self-determination. So what does it mean? It means that previously, if a person consider herself or himself as transgender, they can determine it by the self-attestation or by self they can determine that. But now they require a certificate from a medical board. So it require a verification authority and it established a medical board which is headed by the CMO or the Deputy CMO, that is Chief Medical Officer, to assist the authorities in verifying the transgender identity. So what is the difference here? Previously, they can self-determine that they are transgender, but now they require a authority or the certificate from the authority who will be verifying the transgender identity, and the authority is the medical board which will be headed by the CMO. Then there are stronger penal provision which introduces a graded punishment for the offense against the transgender person with penalties up to life imprisonment. So that is for the protection of the transgender persons. Then there will be a National Council for the Transgender Person. It modified the composition to ensure there will be representation from the every state government and UTs on a rotation basis. So these are the key features of the bill, and the issues are related to the definition and removal to the right to the self-determination. These are the issues related to this bill. Let us discuss these issues. What are the key concerns? First of all, loss of agency. It shifts the framework from the self-determination to the state-mandated medical recognition. So, in the year 2014, in the NALSA case, the Supreme Court has said that the transgender person should be given the right to self-recognize them or the self-determine themselves. If there is a state-mandated medical recognition, it will be against right to privacy and dignity of the person. It was said in the NALSA case of 2014. Then it exclude and it have a narrow definition. Unlike the 2019 Act, which also include the trans men, non-binary people and gender queer individual, it does not include them. Then there is violation of privacy and dignity, as it was said by the Supreme Court in the year 2014 in the NALSA case. So medical examination to prove the gender identities is seen as a violation of privacy as well as human dignity. Then there is lack of consultation. Bill have been passed without referral to the standing committee or consultation with the transgender community. So there are lack of involvement of the shareholders in this. Now let us move further and understand about the initiative for the welfare of the transgender in India. First of all, the case NALSA, National Legal Service Authority versus Union of India 2014. It explicitly recognized transgender person as the third gender, and they have included or they have said that any discrimination against them will be the violation of the Article 14. It also affirmed the right to self-identification of the gender, where the whole issue is regarding. Then there is National Council for the Transgender Person. It is a statutory body to safeguard and promote the rights of the transgender person in India. Then there is National Portal for the Transgender Person. It enables the online application for identity certificates and access to the benefits of the transgenders. Then there is a scheme which is known as SMILE, and it stands for Support for Marginalized Individual for Livelihood and Enterprises. And it is a comprehensive rehabilitation and empowerment of the transgender person. Okay, these are the initiative. Now let us discuss one PYQ from the prelims examination. This question is not directly related, but it is related to Article 14, which we have discussed in the news. And it is from the year 2021. The question is, a legislation which confer on the executive or administrative authority an unguided and uncontrolled discretionary power in the matter of application of law violate which one of the following article of the Constitution of India? So basically it violate Article 14. The answer is A for this question. So such types of question can be also asked in the prelims examination. That's why it's very important to understand what you are reading. Then only you can solve such type of question. Now let us move to the next news. The next news is related to UDAN scheme, that stand for Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik. And the context here is that the Union Cabinet have approved regional connectivity scheme, that is modified UDAN. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about infrastructure, energy, ports, road, airport, railways, etc. In this news, we will be discussing about UDAN as well as the modified UDAN scheme. And as this scheme has completed almost 10 years, you should be knowing about its achievements as well as what was the shortcoming in the last year in the last 10 years in this UDAN scheme. So what is the development? So UDAN airport will now be developed under challenge mode, setting new benchmark in timely completion, quality, innovation and sustainability. What is this challenge mode? So one approach is top-down approach. Suppose central government is saying to a state government, let us suppose to the Bihar government, that you have to make a airport in Begusarai. That is one approach. This is a top-down approach. And what is this challenge model? Challenge mode. So various regions and the state government will give the proposal to set up a airport in their areas. And out of those who have the better proposals will be selected. That is the meaning of challenge mode. So now UDAN airport, that stands for Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, that we have discussed, that UDAN airport will now be developed under the challenge mode. Before understanding the modified UDAN, let us first understand about the UDAN scheme. So it was launched in the year 2016, And the first flight under this was from Simla to New Delhi. And its implementation is under Ministry of Civil Aviation. And its objective is to make the air travel affordable and accessible to all the citizens and strengthening the connectivity to the tier 2 and the tier 3 cities. So what we think about air transport, that it is for the rich people. So for changing that mindset, this scheme was introduced. And what are its achievement? As this scheme has completed the 10 years, you should be knowing about its achievement as well as what was the shortcoming. So first of all, achievement. There have been 663 routes have been operationalized under this across the 95 airport, heliport and the water aerodromes. And it is up to the data from the up to March 2026. Then more than 3.4 lakhs flight have been operated, carrying around 163 lakhs passenger. And connectivity have improved in the remote, hilly and the island regions. So these are the achievement for the UDAN scheme. Then there are some shortcoming. You might be knowing that especially in the Uttar Pradesh, 6 out of 7 airports are not functioning that well, which have been operated under UDAN scheme, except the Ayodhya airport. Other airports are not able to function that well. Then the operational companies or the companies which are operating the flights to a particular UDAN airport, they are not operating that flight after the subsidies are not given by the government, and there are been complaints regarding the delay in the payment from the government side. Okay. Now let us discuss what are the changes or what is the modified UDAN scheme. First of all, now it has been introduced for the more 10 years from the year 2026-27 to 2035-36. And total outlay is for 28,840 crores. And what are the component of this scheme? First of all, the development of aerodromes. Aerodromes means the region where an airport operates, that include helipad or the airstrips and the connecting infrastructure. So it aims for developing 100 airport from unserved airstrips to boost the regional connectivity. And there will be financial support for operation and maintenance as well, that will be there for 3 years, and it will be to 445 RCS only aerodromes. Then the other component of schemes are that it will include the modern helipad. So there will be development of around 200 helipad in the remote, hilly and the aspirational areas, and it will increase the connectivity of these regions to the all India. Then there is about viability gap funding of around 10,000 crore. That is, what is viability gap funding? So suppose there is an infrastructure project that is economically essential, but it is not commercially viable. So there will be losses in that. So to cover that losses, there is viability gap funding for the project which are economically essential but not commercially viable. For such type of project, viability gap funding is provided. Then there will be Atmanirbhar aircraft acquisition, because the procurement they will be there from the HAL for the Dhruv helicopter and the Dornier aircraft. HAL stand for Hindustan Aeronautical Limited. And what is this potential impact of modified UDAN scheme? These are very simple, such as there will be economic growth, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 because of the more connectivity. There will be emergency response, as it will improve the healthcare access in the remote and the hilly region. Then it will also develop the indigenous aerospace because the procurement will be also from the HAL. Then there will be affordable travel as there is capping for certain routes. Then there is aerodrome viability as it will enhance the sustainability and regional airports and airlines. And then it will also lead to Viksit Bharat as the contribution to the developed India of 2047. So with this, we have completed this news. Now let us discuss one PYQ related to this news, and the PYQ is from the year 2024. So the question is, consider the following airport. First, Doni Polo Airport. Second, Kushinagar International Airport. Third, Vijayawada International Airport. So in the recent past, which of the above have been constructed as the greenfield projects? So here you should be knowing about one thing, that is greenfield project. These are the projects which are started from the scratch. There are other type of projects as well that are brownfield project, where there is already infrastructure and that is improved. So the question is asking that in the recent past, which of the above have been constructed from the scratch? So it is a difficult question, factual based question. There was development of 7 greenfield airport from the year 2019. But if you know little bit about the concept of greenfield, you might be knowing that Vijayawada International Airport cannot be new. Okay, Vijayawada is a very old city in Andhra Pradesh and a developed city. So there might be airport beforehand. So if you apply that logic, again I will say that it is very easy to say after the examination that this logic would have been applied. But in the exam, if you keep your mind calm, so such logic can be applied. So if you think like that, then third option will be eliminated. So answer will be only A. Sometime UPSC frame the question to check your ability to think at that moment. Okay, you won't find such questions in the various test series, and they can be only found in the PYQs of the UPSC. So that's why solving PYQ become very important, and especially in this time when exam is approaching. The answer for this is A, 1 and 2 only. Now let us move to the next news, and next news is related to the nationally determined contribution. And the context is that the Union Cabinet have approved India's nationally determined contribution for the period 2031 to 2035. It is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about sustainable development. So you will be, or we will be solving the PYQs related to this news after the discussion of this news. Let us discuss about the development. So under the UNFCCC framework and its Paris Agreement, which have taken place in the year 2015, India submitted first NDC in 2015 and updated in the year 2022, and now announced its target for 2031 to 2035. Before moving further, let us understand about what are these NDCs. So these are the targets, and first of all, they are non-binding in nature. Please be very clear, they are non-binding in nature. And they are submitted by the country, and they target it to keep the global temperature at not more, that the temperature of the globe should not increase more than 1.5 degrees Celsius to the pre-industrial temperature. So here the comparison of the temperature is from the year 1850 to 1900 roughly. So these contributions are non-binding in the nature, and a country provide these target to the UNFCCC that we will try to achieve these targets to reduce the global temperature below the 1.5 degree Celsius as compared to the pre-industrial temperature. And here the year which is from 1850 to 1900, the pre-industrial area or the pre-industrial time period. Okay, now NDC are for the post 2020 climate action plan required to be submitted by countries, individual countries who are party to the Paris Agreement, and it is submitted for the 5 year. NDCs are submitted for every 5 years to the UNFCCC Secretariat. So here most important thing is that they are non-binding in nature. Now let us discuss about the changes. What are the changes and India's new NDC commitment? First of all, the reduction in the emission and intensity of GDP. What is this emission intensity for GDP? Okay, so that is calculated that carbon required for a unit output of the economy, that is emission intensity. So first NDC target which was submitted in the year 2015 said that we will reduce it to 33 to 35% as compared to 2005 levels. Then we have updated and said that we will be reducing it to 45%, and now we have submitted that we will be reducing it to 47%. So there will be more efficiency in the production in matter related to the climate change. And what is the current status? The current status is that we have achieved up to 32% by the year 2020. Then what is the share of non-fossil fuel based electric power installed capacity? That is the second commitment area. So in the year 2015 we said that we will be reducing it to 40%, and then it was updated to 50%, and in the recent update it is up to 60%, and we have achieved up to 52% of the installed capacity. Please be very clear that the installed capacity is different from the generation which we are getting from the non-fossil fuels, because there is a issue in the non-fossil fuel that they cannot produce electricity continuously. That depends on many factors. So installed capacity is higher, but actual production is lower, and we are getting more energy from the coal itself. Then the third, additional carbon sink through the forest and the tree covers. As you might be knowing that trees uses photosynthesis. For photosynthesis they require carbon dioxide, so that they will be reducing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. That is the meaning of third statement here. So in the year 2015 we have said that we will be reducing 2.5 to 3 million tons of CO2 equivalent from the atmosphere. Then in the 2022 update we said we will be reducing 2.5 to 3 million tons of CO2 equivalent. Then now we are saying that we will be reducing 3.5 to 4 million tons of CO2 equivalent. And what is the current status? Current status is 2.29 billion tons equivalent by 2021. Please don't consider these readings, because it is here 52% and here it is around 32% by the year 2020. Now let us move to the next slide and discuss about the initiative for achievement of NCD. First of all, the climate change action plans. So state have the state action plan for climate change, and India has the national action plan for climate change, and it include 9 national mission. It include water mission, solar mission, and the recent coastal mission. When it was introduced in the year 2008, there was 8 mission under it, but now we have included one more, that is national coastal mission. Now there are 9 national mission under this. Then we have various initiatives for clean energy, which include the green hydrogen mission. that is the hydrogen which is produced from the renewable energy. Then we have PM Ghar Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, where we provide or give subsidy to the household for rooftop solar panels. And last year UPSC have asked question regarding to the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, and the question was very elaborate and very specific because they have given various numbers. Okay. Then there is push for carbon capture, utilization and storage. Then there is climate adaptation. What is the meaning of adaptation? Basically adapting to the changes which have been made by the climate. So there is national mission on sustainable agriculture, and there is MISTI, which is for mangroves. Then we have people mobilization as well, and the important scheme is lifestyle for environment, that is life mission. It is to nudge the individual and community action for environmental protection. Now let us discuss PYQs related to this news. So first PYQ is from the year 2025 itself. Please read the question very carefully. So the statement 1, that Article 6 of Paris Agreement on Climate Change is frequently discussed in the global discussion on sustainable development and climate change. So it was asked last year because Paris Agreement completed 10 years, and specifically Article 6 was there in the news. It is related to market and non-market principle for the helping of one state to the another state. So the statement 2 is Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change set out the principle of carbon market. Then statement 3, Article 6 of the Paris Agreement on the Climate Change intend to promote inter-country non-market strategy to reach their climate target. So market strategy include carbon market, and non-market strategies include the technical supports from one country to the another country. That is the part of Article 6 of Paris Agreement. So statement 1 is correct, statement 2 is correct, and statement 3 is also correct. It is related to the market interventions and it is related to the non-market interventions. So the answer would be that both statement 2 and statement 3 are correct, and both of them explain the statement 1. This was the answer for the question of 2025, which was related to Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. Now let us discuss one more PYQ. It is a direct PYQ from the year 2016, and we have discussed that Paris Agreement was there in the 2015. That shows the importance of the Paris Agreement for the UPSC examination. The question is very straightforward. The term intended nationally determined contribution is sometimes seen in the news in the context of a pledge made by the European countries to rehabilitate refugees. It is not related to refugees. Then plan of action outlined by the countries of the world to combat the climate change. So we have discussed this. This is the correct answer. Now let us move to the next main news. The next main news is related to the Central Armed Police Forces. Okay, so there has been a bill which have been introduced in the Rajya Sabha, and the name of the bill is Central Armed Forces, Police Forces General Administration Bill of 2026. Here also there is a controversy regarding this bill that we will be discussing, and it is related to paper 3, where syllabus talks about various security forces and agencies. Now let us discuss this news and discuss about the development. So this bill acts as an overarching law to regulate the recruitment, deputation, promotion and condition of services for officers in the CAPF, Central Armed Police Forces. And the debate is about the IPS versus the officer of CAPF. Okay. So it has said that the bill has specifically provided for deputation of IPS, that is Indian Police Services Officer, to post of CAPF. So the CAPF have concerns regarding that, regarding this provision, as it lead to the stagnation in their growth potential. Even the Supreme Court has said that there should be a number which should be directly there for the CAPF officers. We will be discussing that. That is, in the year 2025, Supreme Court has said for directed progressive reduction in the deputation of the IPS officer in CAPF to the post of Deputy Inspector General of Police and the Inspector General within a period of 2 years. So there was a case in the Supreme Court where CAPF officer have said that there are lot of deputation for the post of Deputy Inspector General of Police and Inspector General of Police, Inspector General in CAPF, where the IPS are directly deputed at those positions and CAPF officers are not getting the chance to be promoted as Deputy Inspector General of Police and the IGs. That was the whole case, and Supreme Court has said that there should be directed progressive reduction. So Supreme Court have asked for the reduction of the IPS officers in the deputation at the post of DIG and the IG in the CAPF. Now let us discuss about the forces in the CAPF. So there are 7 CAPF forces, and in those 4 are borders guarding forces. First is BSF, Border Security Force. It guards border with the Pakistan as well as with the Bangladesh. Then there is Assam Rifle. It guards the border at the India and the Myanmar border. Then we have Indo-Tibetan Border Force. It guards the border with the China. Then we have SSB, Sashastra Seema Bal. It guards the border at the Indo-Nepal border. Then we have Special Operation CAPF, that is NSG. It is for the operation for the hijacking, when there is a chance of hijacking or there can be a threat of bombs, and it is for the VVIP securities as well. Then there are forces which is related to internal security. One is CISF. You might have seen the CISF personnel at the airport, metro, and they are there at the various port as well as the important industries. Then there is CRPF, Central Reserve Police Force. It is for various operations. They can be functioning in the election duty, and they can be also providing safety in the Naxal areas. So these are the 7 CAPF organization, and here the bill talk about the 5 organization in particular, that is BSF, ITBP, SSB, CISF and CRPF. We will be discussing that in the next slide. Let us discuss the key provisions of the bill. First of all, it about the power to make rule. So it empowers the central government to make the rules a matter related to the officers of the specified CAPFs, and it applies to the 5 major CAPF listed in the first schedule of the bill that we have discussed. It include BSF, ITBP, SSB, CISF, CRPF. So 2 more CAPF are remaining, that is NSG and Assam Rifle. But bill has said that the central government may amend the schedule to make bill applicable to the other CAPFs as well, that is NSG and Assam Rifles. And there is position which have to be filled by the deputation. So the following position in the CAPF must be filled, must, please consider this word, the must be filled by the deputation of IPS officers, that include 50% of the post to the rank of Inspector General, a minimum of 67% of the post in the rank of Additional Director Generals, and all posts in the rank of Director General and Special Director Generals. So these are the provisions which are there in the bill. Okay. With this, we have completed this news. Now let us move to the next news. And next news is related to FCRA, that is there stand for the Foreign Contribution Regulation Amendment. And there has been a bill which have been introduced in Lok Sabha, and it is related to GS paper 2, where syllabus talks about important aspect of governance. Let us discuss this bill. So first of all, this bill aim to curb the misuse of foreign fund and improve the transparency and accountability. So what the FCRA is there for? So it stop the misutilization fund of the foreign companies or foreign government to interfere in the Indian functioning, especially to the sovereignty as well as the national interest. So this is about the FCRA. Before understanding this news, let us discuss about the Act, FCRA Act of 2010. So what was its objective? Its objective is to regulate the utilization and acceptance of the foreign fund by certain individual or association or companies to protect the national interest. So there should not be any interference by the outside world in the national interest of our country by the means of funding. That is the basic objective of FCRA. Then there is requirement of registration. For receiving the funds, NGOs have to register themselves with the Ministry of Home Affairs, and this registration will be applicable for the 5 years, and after 5 years they have to re-register themselves with the Ministry of Home Affairs. Then it prohibited a candidate who is there for election, a editor or publisher of a newspaper, judges, government servant are prohibited from receiving the foreign donation, because if they receive the foreign donation and if they are impacted by those donation, it will directly hamper the national interest. That is the objective of FCRA Act of 2010. Then after the 2020 amendment, the FCRA prohibited domestic transfer of foreign fund, and it limit the administrative expenses of organization to 20%. Before it was allowed, the administrative expenses was allowed up to 50%, means day-to-day expenses for the upliftment, or sorry, not the upliftment, for keeping that NGO. And it also prohibit the domestic transfer of the foreign fund. Suppose there is a ABC NGO, and if they receive the funding, they cannot transfer to the another NGO in the India, and they have to register themselves in the SBI, State Bank of India, in the branch of New Delhi. These are the amendments which have been made in the year 2020. Now let us discuss about the key provision of the amendment. First of all, a creation of the designated authority. And for what this designated authority is there? It is to take over, manage or dispose of the asset which are created from the foreign contribution if NGO's registration is cancelled or it is not re-registered or suspended. So suppose there is an NGO and it have created assets from foreign contribution, and that NGO's registration have been cancelled, suspended, or it has not re-registered, then there will be a designated authority to take over and it manage or dispose of these assets. And if registration is not restored, authorities, that is designated authority, will or may transfer or sell them with the proceed which will be deposited in the consolidated fund of India. And there is rationalization of penalties as well. Now the maximum imprisonment has cut from 5 years to 1 year. Then there is requirement of prior approval required. So no investigation regarding these matter can begin without the prior approval of the central government. Then there is new definition of the key functionaries. Before, only the designated position such as the owner was involved or the key functionaries. Now it have been widened to include the directors, partners, trustees as well as the office bearer responsible for and controlling the organization affairs. So their liability have been increased. Then there are other rules as well, that such as it sets the timeline for the fund use. Suppose the NGO is getting fund for a specific timeline, that should be used in that specific timeline. Then there is regulate handling of asset during the suspension. Then there is FCRA registration lapses automatically if not renewed in time. That means there is requirement of registration. If that is not registered in given time, it will automatically suspend. Okay, so these are the key provision. And further, what are the issues raised against this bill? First of all, there is an issue of excessive delegation. So now the key aspect which we have discussed in the first provision about the designated authority have been transferred to an authority and which can make the rule, and it is an excessive delegation. And here the key aspects such as asset handling, timelines and appeal are left to the government rules. So they can be mishappening or there can be excessive power with the government. Then there are concerns regarding democrat. That means there is increase in the personal liability that we have discussed when we were discussing the definition of key functionaries, and there is also increase in the reverse burden of proof. That means they have to prove, the criminals or the accused person in this case, that they are innocent. Then there is violation of Article 300A. 300A is article related to right to property. So here the broad executive control over NGO asset by the designated authority with an inadequate safeguard can potentially harm the right to property, that is Article 300A. And it is also against Article 14 as there is requirement of prior approval which may enable selective enforcement. For some NGOs government can give permission and for some NGOs government may not give permission. So it is violation of Article 14. Okay, with this we have completed this news. Now let us discuss the place in news for today. So place in news for today is Cauvery river, and the context for this news is that an IIT Gandhinagar study have predicted a roughly 3.5% decrease in the Cauvery water flow between the year 2026 to 2050. In this news, we will be covering about the river Cauvery, and it originates at Talkeswari in Cook, that is here in Karnataka. And its drainage area extend over the state of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala and the Union Territory of Puducherry. What is the meaning of drainage area? Basically, it is the area from where water flow to a stream, that is the drainage area. And it is a perennial river. And what is the reason for its perenniality? Because it receives water at the southwestern monsoon as well and water of the northeastern monsoon as well. That means the monsoon, it receives water in the monsoon season as well as in the winters as well. That's why it is perennial. Then talking about its tributaries. So left bank tributaries include Hirangi, Hemavati, Simsa and Arkavati. And right bank tributaries include the Lakshmantrita, Kabani, Surnavati, Bhavani, Noili and Amravati. Okay, and major waterfall include the Shiva Samundra Fall, Hokenakal Fall, and there are various dam as well on it, one of which is Krishna Sagar in Karnataka and Metru Dam in Tamil Nadu. They are famous dam on Cauvery river. If you see the past trend of PYQs, now UPSC is asking question based on rivers, their tributaries, important waterfall and the major dam on the rivers. If you want to know about the rivers, please solve or please have a map where you draw all the rivers and their tributaries and important cities and important dams on them. Then only you can clearly remember the various rivers and their tributaries. But you should draw that map by yourself. Not you should not take a printout which is readily made up by some book or by some other student. Okay, with this we have completed place in news for today. Now let us discuss the quick updates. First quick update is related to immigration visa foreigner registration and tracking scheme. Okay, so the context here is that the Union Cabinet have approved the continuation of this scheme from year 2026 to 2031. In this, we will be learning that what this scheme for. First of all, it is under the Ministry of Home Affairs under the National E-Governance Plan, and its objective is to modernize immigration and visa services and facilitate the legitimate travelers with strengthening the national security. So what does it do? It integrates the immigration, visa issuance, registration of foreign and tracking their movement in India. So basically it promotes the tourism in India as well as it strengthens the national security. And its significance is it boosts the tourism, it improves the international business and 100% contactless and faceless visa approval, as well as it promotes the national security. With this we have completed this news. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about Cauvery cruise missile. So the context here is that the Iran have fired the Cauvery cruise missile at USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. So what is this Cauvery cruise missile? It is a medium range shore based anti-ship cruise missile developed by Iran. So you should be knowing about this cruise missile as well as the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. Then it is an upgraded version of the Noor missile with a reported range of 120 to 300 kilometers. And what is a cruise missile? A cruise missile is a missile which flows in the air or which transferred in the atmosphere by very near to the surface so that it is not tracked by the radars. Okay, there are ballistic missiles as well. So ballistic missile go like this, whereas the cruise missile follow the surface. So this is about cruise missile. Now let us move to the next quick update. So the next quick update is about Ignite engines. It is a very important development related to the private startups. Okay. So Indian private space startup Agnikul Cosmos has reached a major milestone by successfully test firing Ignite engine. And in this news, we will be covering about this engine. First of all, it is world's largest single piece 3D printed booster engine. So its length is about 1 meter. That makes it the world's largest single piece 3D printed booster engine. And for making a engine, there is requirement of welding, there is requirement of assembly. But if there is 3D printing for making that engine, it will reduce the making of that engine by 70 to 80%. Okay, and it is made by using Inconel. And what is Inconel? It is an high performance alloy specifically designed to to endure the extreme temperature. And the Ignite engines are built to power the booster engines of Agnikul's Agniban launch vehicles. So this is about Ignite engine. In this news, you should also know about this Agnikul Cosmos. Okay, they won't ask this in the prelims examination, but you can write about startup success in the mains examination if there is a question related to startups. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the calm brain. What is the context here? The context is that the researchers have developed Calm Brain, a first of its kind digital repository of data in India on the brain structure. And it is specifically related to the clinical neuroimaging, behavior genetic and other database on the 5 disorders. And what are those 5 disorders? That are addiction, bipolar disorder, dementia, obsessive compulsive disorder, that is OCD, and schizophrenia. So basically, this Calm Brain is a collection of clinical, neuroimaginical, behavioral, genetic and other database on 5 disorders. And it was initiated as a part of accelerated program for discovery in brain disorder using the stem cell, and it is jointly funded by Department of Biotechnology and the Pratiksha Trust. And what is its significance? Basically, it will be made open source, which will help the clinician and the researcher to better understand the disease onset, progression and underlying biological changes as the data for them is available, and that will be made open source. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Kavach system. So it is the context is that the Indian Railway had approved the extension of Kavach system across the multiple zones. In this news, we will be understanding about Kavach zone. So it is an train collision avoidance system, and that prevent collision by automatically applying the brakes. So basically, it protects the accidents of train, and it is developed by Research, Design and Standard Organization of Indian Railways. And what are the key features of this Kavach system? First of all, it is a continuous real-time update to the locomotive. So it provides the real-time update to the locomotive. Then it prevents all type of train collision, that can be head-on, rear-on or from the sides. Then it prevents signal passing at the danger, and it will automatically apply the brakes. And there are other features as well, such as it will repeat the sideline line side signal for foggy weathers, and there will be automatic horn activation when it passes a certain range. Then there are emergency stop on site measures. Okay, now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about IIED Food Security Index. So this index has been released, and it is released by International Institution for Environment and Development. They have published this index, and it evaluates how climate change will impact the 4 pillars of food security. Basically, it is interlinking the climate change with the food security. And what are those 4 pillars of food security which they are considering? That is availability of food, accessibility of food, utilization of food and sustainability of food. And what are its key highlights? Mostly we have covered the key highlights related to India. First of all, India ranked among the most vulnerable large economies to food insecurity as global temperature rises. So if there is rise in the global temperature, India will be impacted when it comes to the food security. Then India is positioned as most concerning in the food security index. Now let us move to the next quick update. The next quick update is about the Rossby waves and wet bulb temperature. And the context here is that a study have shows the rising sea surface temperature in coastal waters are leading to 50 to 64% rise humid heat waves over land aggravated by the atmospheric Rossby wave trends. So in this news, the context is not that important, but this humidity or the wet bulb temperature is important, as well as Rossby waves are important. First of all, let us understand about the wet bulb temperature. So wet bulb temperature is the lowest temperature to which air can be cooled by the evaporation of water. Let us understand it with an example. Suppose there is a person, and if he is sweating at that time, he can cool down his body. But if there is high humidity in that area, he or she cannot cool down by sweating, because there will be increase in the wet bulb temperature. So that is given in this news. So humidity spike the wet bulb temperature, okay, which above 31.5 degrees Celsius is harmful, as the body is no longer able to cool down itself by sweating. Then there is Rossby waves. What are these? These are huge undulating movement of the atmosphere that stretch horizontally across the planet in the westward direction. They can be oceanic Rossby waves, and there are atmospheric Rossby waves, and their direction of movement is from east to west, that is westwards. Okay, and they are planetary waves. And what is their function? They are triggered by the earth rotation and the ocean land temperature difference. That is their trigger point. And when these Rossby waves are stalled, they trap hot humid airwaves over the regions, which leads to heat waves. This is about Rossby waves. Okay, so here one and two things are very important. First of all, they are found in the ocean as well as in the atmosphere. They move westward, and their trigger point is earth rotation and the ocean land temperature difference. Okay, with this, we have completed the News Today session for today. To read further the current affairs and the other initiative of Vision IAS, you can visit the digital current affairs website of Vision IAS, and please solve the questions which are visible on your screen. Thank you and have a nice day.